I didn't expect anything that night. Not a confession, not a spark, and definitely not the kiss. It started like a normal Thursday evening, the kind where you leave work drained, flop onto the couch, and scroll endlessly through Instagram while ignoring your dinner. I was still in my scrubs, back sore from another long shift at the clinic, when my phone lit up. It was Kyle. "You still up?" I smirked. Kyle was always up late. He worked freelance photography, mostly, and lived a few blocks away. We'd been friends for over 2 years. Not best friends, but the kind who sent memes, watched horror movies, and grabbed burgers together. Always easy. Always casual. "Yeah, just got home." "Beat." His reply came fast. "Want a quick back rub? I need to practice massage techniques for this wellness shoot tomorrow." No funny stuff, LOL. I actually laughed out loud. Kyle was always like that, blunt, playful, but chill. And I was sore. My spine felt like a twisted pretzel. I hesitated maybe 2 seconds before typing. "If you're serious, I'm on my way." His apartment smelled like sage and something citrusy when I walked in. Soft indie music played from a Bluetooth speaker. The lights were low. Too low? I lit candles. "Don't get weird about it," Kyle teased. I wasn't getting weird. I said, tossing my hoodie on the couch. "This is very spa-core view." He chuckled and pointed toward a folded towel laid over his bed. "Lay down. Shirt off. Face down. Let's fix that back." Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. I told myself it was just the idea of another man, even a close friend, touching me like that. Nothing more. I pulled off my shirt and lay on the bed. His hands were warm, firm but careful. He worked the knots in my upper back with a focus I hadn't seen from him before. Occasionally, he paused to ask, "Too much pressure, or you good?" I kept nodding, surprised at how much tension I'd been holding. "You got, 5 years of stress in your shoulders," he said, kneading deeply into the muscle. I heard him laugh softly. "You always act so chill, but damn, your body's snitching." I wanted to joke back, but my brain was foggy, not in a bad way. The kind of floaty you get when someone actually sees through you. He moved lower, my lower back, then the edge of my waistline. His fingers lingered for a moment too long, or maybe it just felt that way. My heart beat faster. My mouth went dry. We didn't speak for a while. Just the sound of music and the slow rhythm of his palms sliding across my skin. Then he said something I wasn't ready for. "You ever think about, if we weren't just friends?" I turned my head slightly. "What?" Kyle cleared his throat. "Nothing. Just, you ever think about stuff like that? With people you're close to?" I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I did, and that scared me more than anything. By the way, there's a part of this story I haven't told anyone, not even my closest friends. But if we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'll share the most secret truth behind everything that happened that night. Something I've kept buried until now. You deserve to know the whole story. Just help me get there. I sat up slowly. Kyle's hands fell away, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. The air felt heavier. I could smell the faint vanilla candle burning on the dresser. His fingers flexed like he wasn't sure what to do with them now. "You okay?" he asked, voice lower than before. Yeah, just tired." He looked disappointed, but nodded. Yeah, no worries. I get it. I should have left right then, thrown my shirt on, mumbled an excuse, and gone home to unpack the weirdness in private. But I didn't. Instead, I just looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, I noticed the way his eyes softened when he wasn't trying to be funny. The way his jaw twitched when he held something back. The way his knee bounced, just a little, when he was nervous. I'd seen those things before. I just never let myself see them. He stood, walked toward the kitchen, maybe to give me space, maybe to distract himself. But just before he turned away, he said, "If it was more than just friends, would that be a bad thing?" His voice cracked a little. Barely. I swallowed. "I don't know." Silence stretched between us. He looked like he was about to drop it, move on, laugh it off. But instead, he took 2 steps back toward me. Then, slowly, cautiously, he leaned in. and kissed me. His lips touched mine, soft, hesitant, barely there. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't slow motion like in the movies. It was more like silence, like the world blinked off for a second. And it was just him and me and the feeling of skin against skin in a way we'd never dared before. I didn't pull away. That was the part that shocked me the most. Because I should have, right? That's what I told myself on the drive home later. That it was just the heat of the moment. Curiosity. A friend being too close. A body reacting to touch. Nothing more. But I didn't stop him. And he didn't stop me when I kissed him back. The kiss didn't last long. Maybe 2 seconds. Maybe 10. Time gets weird when you cross a line you didn't even know you were standing on. When we pulled apart, Kyle looked at me like he was waiting to be slapped, or yelled at, or told he ruined everything. But I didn't do any of that. I just stared at him. My voice was low when I finally said, What was that? Kyle rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly nervous. I don't know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I just thought maybe. You thought what? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat back down on the edge of the bed and looked at the floor. I've been thinking about it for a while, he admitted. I didn't plan that, but I've felt something for months, and tonight. He stopped, and that silence, that's what broke me. Because I realized in that moment that I'd been feeling it too, just buried so deep under friendship, routine, and denial that I never let it rise to the surface. But now it had, and nothing felt simple anymore. I sat next to him, both of us staring at the candle flickering on his dresser, like it had the answers we didn't. Do you regret it? I asked. Kyle hesitated. No, but I don't want to mess up what we have. Yeah, I said, though I wasn't sure what we even was anymore. Same. I left a few minutes later, heart thudding in my chest the whole walk home. That kiss stayed with me, not just on my lips, but deeper, in my chest, in my thoughts. Every time I tried to replay it, I'd feel the warmth of his hands on my back again, the way his voice softened before he leaned in. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept asking myself, was it a mistake, or was it something I secretly wanted, and was too afraid to admit? The next few days were weird. We didn't text, not even memes, and that silence between us felt louder than any fight ever could, like we were both waiting for the other to make the next move. And then he called. It was Sunday. I was halfway through folding laundry when my phone buzzed. I stared at his name on the screen for way too long before answering. Hey, I said, voice awkward. Hey, he replied. Can we talk? I paused. We're talking. No, like in person. Please. Something in his voice made it hard to say no. So I didn't. We met at this small park halfway between our places. It was quiet, just a few people walking dogs, some teens throwing a frisbee around. Kyle was already sitting on a bench when I got there, hoodie zipped all the way up even though it wasn't cold. I sat down next to him, leaving a little space between us. He noticed. I saw his shoulders tighten. Look, he said after a moment, I don't want things to be weird between us. They're already weird, I said, not unkindly. Yeah, I care about you. A lot, and I don't want to lose you. Not as a friend, not as anything. He looked at me, eyes searching mine. I don't know what that kiss meant for you, but it meant something to me. My chest tightened. I wanted to tell him I felt the same, that I hadn't stopped thinking about it either, that maybe I wanted more. But my fear got in the way, of judgment, of ruining something good, of being vulnerable. So instead I said, I'm still figuring it out. Kyle nodded, his face unreadable. Okay, that's fair. But I could tell he was disappointed, and that killed me. We sat in silence for a bit, watching the clouds, listening to the world move around us like it didn't care two people were quietly unraveling on a park bench. Then Kyle stood up. I gotta head to a shoot. Just let me know when you figure it out, okay? I nodded, unsure if I'd ever have an answer. He walked away, and for the first time since I met him, he didn't look back. It had been 5 days since we last spoke. 5 days since that kiss, since the park bench. since Kyle walked away and didn't look back. And in those 5 days, I convinced myself it was better this way. Cleaner, less confusing. I could pretend it never happened, just file under weird moments, and go back to my carefully organized life. But pretending didn't make the thoughts go away. I kept thinking about his eyes, the way his voice cracked, the weight of his silence, and how badly I wanted to chase after him when he left, but didn't. So when he showed up at my door at 11:43 on a Friday night, I wasn't ready, not even close. I heard the knock first. 3 short, uneven taps, almost like whoever was on the other side wasn't sure they even wanted to be there. I opened the door in sweatpants and an old hoodie, thinking maybe it was a neighbor or food delivery gone to the wrong apartment. But it was Kyle, hair messy, eyes red, hoodie hanging off one shoulder. He smelled like whiskey and winter air. "Hey," he said, voice hoarse. "Kyle, are you okay?" He blinked, like it took effort to focus. "No, not really." I stepped aside. "Come in." He walked in slowly, like the hallway was unfamiliar terrain. I shut the door behind him and followed him into the living room. He didn't sit, just stood there, swaying a little, lips pressed in a tight line. "You been drinking?" He nodded. "Yeah." I stayed quiet. Kyle looked around the room like he was searching for something to anchor himself. Then he said, "I didn't come here to mess things up." My stomach twisted. "Okay." He paused, rubbing his face with both hands. "I miss you, man." The words hit harder than I expected. I miss us hanging out. I miss not feeling like I ruined everything. I walked over, cautious, but close enough that he could feel I wasn't shutting him out. "You didn't ruin anything," I said quietly. He laughed bitterly. "Yeah? Then why haven't you called?" I looked away. I didn't know what to say. Kyle dropped onto the couch, head in his hands. "I hate this. I hate feeling like some dumb line I crossed destroyed the best thing I had." "It didn't destroy it," I said. "It changed it." He looked up at me. His eyes were glassy, but clear enough now that I could see the fear behind them. "What if I didn't want to change?" he asked. "What if I wanted more?" My breath caught. I sat beside him, leaving a gap not as big as before. "You're drunk," I said. "I'm honest," he corrected. "Alcohol just makes it harder to hide." There was a long pause. Then he said something that split the air like glass. "I think I'm in love with you." I stared at him. It wasn't the first time someone had said that to me, but it was the first time it scared me in a way I didn't expect. Not because I didn't care about Kyle, but because maybe I cared more than I'd let myself believe. I swallowed hard. "You can't just drop that on me like this." "Then when," he snapped, "when it's convenient, when I'm sober enough to fake being okay again." He shook his head. "I've been pretending for months. Every time you smiled at me, or laughed at one of my stupid jokes, or leaned your head on my shoulder during movie night, I felt it, and I kept telling myself I was crazy, that you didn't feel it too." He turned toward me, eyes burning. "But you kissed me back." I looked down at my hands. "I know. Then why are we pretending it didn't happen?" I didn't have an answer, not one I was ready to say out loud. So instead, I asked the only thing I could think of. "Do you even remember this conversation tomorrow?" He blinked. "What?" "You're drunk, Kyle. How do I know this isn't just?" He cut me off. "Because I wrote you a letter. A week ago. I didn't send it, but it's real. Everything I'm saying right now, it's in that letter. So don't tell me this is just the whiskey talking." I stared at him, stunned. "You wrote me a letter?" He nodded. "It's in my jacket. I brought it." I reached into the pocket and pulled it out. A folded page, creased like it had been opened and closed 100 times. My name was written on the front in his familiar handwriting. My heart pounded. "I was going to leave it in your mailbox," he said softly. But that felt cowardly. I didn't open it right away. Kyle leaned back on the couch, eyes fluttering shut. "Can I stay here tonight?" he asked, voice barely audible. I nodded. He was already asleep 5 minutes later, curled up like he hadn't rested in days. I sat there, letter in hand, heart pounding, and I couldn't help thinking, What if I'd been lying to myself this whole time? The morning light hit Kyle's face softly, golden, quiet, almost like it didn't want to wake him. But I was already awake. I'd been up for hours, just sitting there with that letter in my hands, turning it over, reading my name on the front again and again, wondering what would happen if I opened it. It felt heavier than paper, like it carried every unspoken moment between us. He shifted under the blanket, murmured something I couldn't quite catch, and then slowly opened his eyes. When he saw me, still holding the letter, he sat up. "You didn't read it?" he asked, voice rough from sleep. I didn't know if I should. "I meant everything in it," he said quietly. "I still do." He looked so different in the morning light. No defenses, no jokes, just Kyle, raw and real and quiet in a way I wasn't used to seeing. I finally broke the silence. "Why write a letter? Why not just tell me?" He rubbed his eyes. "Because it's easier to be brave when you're not standing in front of someone waiting for their face to change." That hit me hard. I looked down at the envelope again. "Can I read it now?" He nodded, eyes on me the whole time. I unfolded the page slowly. His handwriting was familiar, a little messy, always slanted to the right. I read silently, and as the words sank in, I felt my throat tighten. I don't know how to say any of this without sounding like a complete idiot, but I guess I already crossed that line. You've been in my head for a long time now, longer than I've wanted to admit. It started small, the way you talk about your day, the way you get quiet when you're really upset. I notice the way you always overthink what you say, even when you act like you're being chill. I notice everything. And somewhere in the noticing, I caught feelings I didn't mean to catch. You didn't ask for this. I know that, but it's been driving me insane, pretending I don't feel anything when you touch my arm or laugh at something dumb I said. And I know we're friends. I don't want to lose that. But if there's even the smallest chance you've ever wondered, if maybe you could feel something too, I had to tell you. If this ruins everything, I'll live with that. But I couldn't keep it in anymore. I love you, in whatever way you'll let me. By the time I finished reading, my hands were trembling. I looked at him, unsure what to say. He just sat there, eyes scanning my face like he was waiting to be broken. "Say something," he whispered. "I don't know what to say." "Do you feel anything?" His voice cracked. "Anything at all?" I hesitated, and then I told the truth. "Yes," I said, "I do." His eyes widened. "But it scares me," I added quickly. "I've never let myself go there. Not with you, not with anyone. And now it's like everything I thought I knew about us is shifting." Kyle leaned forward, closer. "Is that a bad thing?" I shook my head. "No, but it's not simple." "It never is," he said, his voice soft. "But it could be worth it." We sat in silence, both breathing a little heavier now. Then I asked something I'd been holding back for weeks. "Did you always know that I liked you?" "Yeah." He nodded. Since that night, we stayed up talking until 3 a.m. about our worst heartbreaks. You fell asleep on my shoulder, and something just clicked. I felt protective of you, and scared, and also completely stupid because I thought, no way he'd ever look at me like that. I swallowed. Maybe I was too scared to. Kyle moved closer, slowly, like giving me time to stop him. "I don't want to push you," he said, "but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." His hand brushed mine. I didn't pull away. That afternoon, we didn't kiss. We didn't need to. We just sat together on the couch, legs barely touching, silence thick, but safe. He stayed the whole day. We didn't talk about the future. We didn't put a name on what was happening. We just existed in the moment, messy, unsure, and a little terrified. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone in it. I thought letting Kyle stay that day would give me clarity. Instead, it gave me something harder. Hope, not the cheesy movie kind. The kind that keeps you up at night wondering what you're doing, where it's going, and whether you're about to ruin the best friendship you've ever had, or finally step into something that was always waiting for you. For a week, things felt lighter. We didn't talk about the kiss or the letter again. Not directly. But everything was different. The way he looked at me. The way he lingered when our hands brushed. The way he showed up more, not just physically, but emotionally, like a door had opened between us, and he wasn't afraid to stand on the threshold anymore. And I didn't close it. Not this time. Then someone from my past showed up, and everything tilted sideways again. It started with a DM. One of those late-night messages that pings your phone and makes your chest tighten before you even read it. Alex. Hey, it's been a while. You free to talk? Alex. A name I hadn't seen pop up in over a year. He was the kind of ex who didn't scar me, but left a bruise that took longer than I'd admit to fade. We weren't a couple for long. 6 months, give or take. But what we had felt real. Honest. Uncomplicated. Until it wasn't. Until he ghosted me after telling me he needed time to figure himself out. And now here he was. On a random Tuesday night. Like nothing ever happened. Kyle was sitting beside me on the couch, half asleep with his head resting on my shoulder. We just finished watching something dumb on Netflix, and he hadn't said much all night, but his presence was enough. I stared at the message on my phone, not answering it. Not yet. Kyle shifted, noticed I'd gone quiet. Everything okay? Yeah, I lied. Just someone from college messaged me. He looked up, sleep still in his eyes. Everything good? I nodded too fast. Yeah, nothing important. He didn't press. Just curled back into me like he belonged there. And that made it worse. Because my heart was beating faster now, and not for the right reasons. The next morning, I replied, Me? Hey, didn't expect to hear from you. You okay? The typing bubble appeared almost instantly. Alex. Yeah, I'm in town for a few days. Just thought, I don't know. Maybe we could grab coffee. No pressure. And like a fool, I said yes. I didn't tell Kyle. Not because I was hiding something. At least, that's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew the truth. I didn't want to see the look on his face. Because even though we weren't official, even though we hadn't kissed again or labeled what was happening, I knew how he felt. And part of me, the old part, the scared part, wasn't sure if I was ready to feel that deeply back. Alex looked exactly the same when I saw him at the cafe. Same soft smile. Same eyes that made you feel like he really saw you. And that was dangerous. He stood up when he saw me and gave me a hug that lingered just a second too long. You look good, he said. You always say that. I replied, trying to keep my voice even. Because it's true. We sat. We ordered. We talked. And for the first 15 minutes, it felt like no time had passed. Like the year apart never happened. Like he never left. That's what scared me. Then he said it. I've thought about you a lot. I looked up. Alex. I know. I was a coward. I shouldn't have disappeared. But I wasn't ready to be in something real, and you were. That wasn't fair to you. I stayed quiet. He leaned forward. But I am ready now. And if there's any part of you that still wonders what we could have been, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. And in that moment, I realized something with terrifying clarity. A year ago, I would have said yes without thinking. Now, I couldn't even imagine saying it. Because someone else was in my heart now. Slowly, quietly, but deeply. Kyle. I stood up. I'm sorry, Alex. I can't do this. He blinked. You're seeing someone? I hesitated. Not officially. But I think I want to be. His expression fell, but he nodded. I get it. I'm glad you found someone who sees you. I left before I could say anything else. That night, Kyle noticed something was off. He didn't push. He just came over with 2 bags of takeout and sat next to me on the floor like nothing was wrong. And after a few bites, I finally told him the truth. An ex messaged me. He paused. Yeah, we got coffee. He froze, food halfway to his mouth. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you, but I think not telling you did exactly that. Kyle didn't say anything for a moment. Then, did anything happen? No. He wanted to, I don't know, see if there was still something between us. And there wasn't. Kyle set the food down quietly. I trust you, he said, but I don't think I would have if you hadn't told me just now. That stung, but I deserved it. I'm not used to this, being honest in the moment. It's new for me. He looked at me. and in his eyes I saw not anger but understanding. "Then let's keep figuring it out together," he said. "There's a certain kind of silence that happens between two people when everything unspoken starts piling up. It's not angry. It's not cold. It's just heavy. The kind that makes you second-guess every word, every glance, every brush of fingers that once felt effortless. That's what it felt like between me and Kyle the week after I told him about Alex. We still hung out, still texted, still had those familiar moments, falling asleep to the same old shows, laughing at the same dumb memes. But something shifted, subtle, unspoken, like we were both waiting for the other to say what we really want to say. And neither of us had the guts to go first. It came to a head one night when we were both invited to a birthday party. It was one of those big, chaotic house parties thrown by a mutual friend, a mix of couples, exes, loud music, and overly sweet drinks that sneak up on you. Kyle and I arrived together but drifted apart quickly. He got pulled into a circle of friends playing cards, and I ended up outside talking with someone I barely knew. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even intentional. But halfway through the night, I realized we hadn't spoken to each other in over an hour. Then I saw it. Kyle, standing near the kitchen, talking to some guy I didn't recognize. Taller, confident, laughing a little too easily at something Kyle said. And I felt something I wasn't expecting. Jealousy, not the petty kind, not the controlling kind. The kind that hits when you realize you're about to lose something you never had the courage to claim. I walked outside, needing air, sat on the front step with a plastic cup of whatever punch they were serving. Try to focus on anything but the tight, not building in my chest. And then Kyle came out. He didn't sit right away, just stood there, looking at me like he already knew. "You okay?" he asked. I shrugged. Yeah, just needed space. He sat down beside me, quiet. "You mad?" he asked after a minute. "No," I said, "just confused." He nodded, staring out at the street. "I saw you talking to that guy." I added. Kyle raised an eyebrow. "And I don't know. It just hit me weird." Another beat of silence. Then he asked, "Are you jealous?" I didn't answer, because I didn't want to lie. "I don't know what we are," I said finally. "I don't know how to describe it. And maybe that's the problem." Kyle turned toward me. "So let's talk about it." I swallowed. "Are we dating?" He didn't flinch. "Do you want to be?" I stared at him. The party noise faded. The streetlights flickered above us like a spotlight on a moment I couldn't avoid. "I think I do," I said, "but I'm scared I'll mess it up." He leaned closer. "We're already messing it up by not talking about it." I half laughed. "That's fair." Kyle sighed. "Look, I don't need a label right now. I don't need you to promise anything you're not ready for. But I do need to know if I'm wasting my time." "You're not," I said quickly. "You never were." He exhaled this soft, almost broken sound like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. "Okay," he said. "Then let's stop pretending." We didn't kiss. Not yet, but we stood up, walked back inside together, and, for the first time in weeks, didn't leave space between us. People noticed. I saw it in the way one friend raised an eyebrow, in the way another gave us a knowing smile. No one said anything out loud, but it was like we crossed some invisible threshold. And I didn't care. Later that night, back at my place, we sat on my bed, not touching, just sitting. Kyle looked over at me. "Can I ask something?" "Of course." "Do you regret the kiss?" I looked him straight in the eye. "No. I regret waiting so long to admit it mattered." He nodded slowly, almost like he needed to hear me say it to believe it. Then, softly, like it wasn't even meant to be spoken, he said, "Can I kiss you again?" My heart was pounding, but this time I didn't run from it. Yes, it was different this time. No hesitation, no confusion, just warmth, familiar, wanted, real. It didn't feel like a secret or a mistake. It felt like something we'd both earned. And when we finally pulled away, I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Relief. We didn't define it that night. We didn't call it boyfriends or together or anything with capital letters. But for the first time, we stopped dancing around the truth And that made all the difference. It had been 3 days since that kiss. 3 days of soft smiles, longer hugs, and a new kind of quiet, not awkward but intimate. We didn't talk about what we were, but it felt understood, like we were building something slowly, carefully, and for the first time, it didn't feel like we were pretending. Then Kyle got a phone call that changed everything. We were supposed to meet for dinner. He was late, which wasn't like him. I texted. No reply. Then called. Straight to voicemail. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe he got caught at work. Maybe his phone died. But the longer I waited, the worse the pit in my stomach got. At 8:46 p.m., my phone finally buzzed. Unknown number. Hi, this is Sandra, Kyle's sister. He asked me to text you. He's okay, but he's in the hospital. My entire body went cold. 10 minutes later, I was in a rideshare heading to the hospital, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might crack open. I didn't even know what had happened. The elevator ride to the third floor felt like years. The hallway lights were too bright. Everything smelled like disinfectant and nerves. When I finally saw him in that hospital bed, pale but awake, I nearly collapsed with relief. His face lit up the second he saw me. "Hey," he whispered, voice weak. I wanted to yell. I wanted to cry. I wanted to grab him and shake him and ask what the hell had happened. Instead, I walked over, knelt beside the bed, and just held his hand. "I thought you ghosted me." I tried to joke. I would have texted, but I kind of passed out, he said, managing a weak smile. I squeezed his hand tighter. "What happened?" Kyle sighed. It was my heart. I didn't even know something was wrong. I was walking home, felt dizzy. Then everything just went black. His sister, standing nearby, added, "They think it's stress-related. He's been pushing himself too hard, barely sleeping." I looked at him. "You didn't say anything." He looked away. "Didn't want to worry you." I shook my head. "That's not how this works." "I know," he said quietly. I'm not used to someone staying." We sat there in silence. That moment changed something in me. All this time, I thought I was the scared one. That Kyle was the brave one, always putting himself out there. But now I realize he was just as afraid as I was. Maybe more. Over the next few days, I stayed by his side. I canceled work. I brought him snacks. I helped him walk around the hospital hall when he got stir-crazy. We didn't say anything romantic, no dramatic speeches, but the care was loud enough to drown out anything unsaid. One night, as I was tucking an extra blanket around him, he looked up at me with this expression I'll never forget, soft, tired, but grateful. "You're the first person I've ever let see me like this," he said. "You're the first person I've ever wanted to." I replied. He was discharged 3 days later. I brought him home. And that night, after he fell asleep on my couch again, just like the night of the letter, I sat beside him, watching him breathe. I thought about all the ways I almost lost this before it ever started. And I made a promise to myself right there. I wouldn't run anymore. Kyle's recovery was slow, not dramatic, not life or death. But it changed everything. He had to cut back on work. No more all-nighters. No more energy drinks. No more acting like nothing could touch him. And we, in turn, had to slow down too. At first, I thought that meant things would get easier between us. That we have more time to figure things out, gently, without pressure. But the truth is, slowing down gives silence a lot more room to grow. And silence, I was learning, could be just as loud as shouting. The first week he was home, I stayed over most nights. I brought groceries, made him tea, sat on the floor while he rested on the couch. We didn't talk much about what we were, but we held hands more. We slept in the same bed. He would reach for me in the middle of the night, like just needing to know I was there. I thought that was enough. Until one night it wasn't. It started with something small. He was watching an old sitcom rerun, the kind of dumb comfort show we both secretly liked. I was in the kitchen, reheating leftover soup, when I heard him laugh. A deep, real laugh that filled the apartment for a second. It made me smile. And then it hit me. How terrifyingly much I cared about him. I wasn't falling. I had already fallen. And that scared me in a way I wasn't ready to admit, not even to myself. He must have noticed something shift in my face when I handed him the bowl. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just tired." "Liar," he said with a half smile. "I know you're tired face. That's your I'm spiraling inside face." I laughed, but I didn't deny it. Then he set the bowl aside, leaned toward me a little, and said, "Talk to me." So I did. "I'm scared," I said quietly, "of how much I feel for you." He blinked, not expecting that. "I've never been in something that feels this real," I continued, "and I keep waiting for the part where it all falls apart." Kyle was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that stopped me cold. "You think I don't feel the same?" I looked at him. "Do you?" His voice barely rose above a whisper, but the words hit like thunder. "I think I'm in love with you." Silence. He didn't rush to take it back. Didn't say he meant it differently. Didn't laugh to lighten the moment. He just sat with it, let it exist. And that, more than anything, told me it was real. I didn't mean to say that, he added, softer now. "At least not like this. But I've known it for a while." "Since when?" He exhaled slowly. "Since before the massage." I froze. "Wait, what?" He gave me a sheepish, half-guilty smile. "That night, when you were tense and asked for help, I said yes like it was no big deal, but inside, I was already feeling things I wasn't supposed to." I stared at him, heart thudding. And then he continued, "You let your head fall against me, and you let yourself melt, and something about that broke me. You trusted me. You let me see you in a way no one ever had before. And I knew," he said, "I was already too far gone." I didn't know whether to cry or kiss him, so I just sat there, stunned. Kyle reached over and took my hand. "I'm not asking for anything," he said. "You don't have to say it back. I couldn't keep it in anymore." And here's the wild thing. Even though he didn't ask for it, even though there was no pressure, I wanted to say it back. But something held me. Not fear, not doubt, grief. For all the versions of me that never believed I'd be loved like this. I looked at him, really looked, and all I could say was, "Thank you." He smiled, not disappointed, not hurt, just peaceful. "Yeah," he whispered, "anytime." We sat like that for a long time, hand in hand. Sitcoms still play in the background like a heartbeat we both memorized. And I thought to myself, I think I love him too. I just need a little more time to believe I deserve it. Kyle's birthday was coming up, and I wanted to do something right. Not big, not loud, just right. He wasn't one for grand gestures. He hated surprise parties, awkward speeches, or anything that made him the center of attention. But I knew what he did like soft things, thoughtful things, things that made him feel safe. So I planned a quiet evening. Just a few close friends, his favorite takeout, a homemade playlist, and a cake I wasn't confident baking but tried anyway. And of course, I invited the people he always smiled around, the ones he trusted. But somehow, one person showed up who wasn't on the list. And the moment Kyle saw him standing at the door, his whole body changed. It was Liam, tall, confident, effortlessly charming, and very much his ex. Kyle hadn't talked about it much, just mentioned once that it ended badly and that he wasn't the same person around him. I never pushed for more. Now I was wishing I had. Liam walked in like he belonged there, holding a bottle of wine, and that kind of grin people wear when they're too proud to be nervous. "Kyle," he said, "happy birthday, man." Kyle didn't move, didn't smile, didn't even blink. "Liam," he said flatly, "figured I'd stop by. Nina told me about the party. Thought it'd be cool to reconnect." I mentally cursed Nina. She didn't know, couldn't have known. She wouldn't have done it on purpose. But it didn't matter. Liam was here, and Kyle was clearly not okay. "I didn't invite you," Kyle said, finally. Liam's smile wavered, but only slightly. "Didn't think you'd mind." "I do." There it was, a flicker of tension, so sharp you could feel it in the air. I stepped in. "Maybe now's not the best time, man." Liam turned to me like he was just noticing I existed. "And you are—" I opened my mouth, then paused. because suddenly the label mattered, not to me, not even to Kyle, really, but to Liam, the kind of person who always had to know where everyone stood. I'm with Kyle, I said. Steady, clear. Liam raised his eyebrows. Ah, got it. He turned back to Kyle, still acting too calm. Well, I won't stay long. Just thought I'd say hi. Maybe catch up sometime, yeah? Kyle shook his head. I don't think that's a good idea. Liam's face finally cracked. Still mad? Kyle crossed his arms. I'm not mad. I just don't let people who broke me back into my life like nothing happened. Silence. Even the music in the background seemed to hush. Liam gave a tight nod. Right. Well, happy birthday. And just like that, he was gone. When the door shut behind him, Kyle sat down on the edge of the couch like all the air had left his body. I sat beside him. Quiet. Steady. After a long pause, he said, I haven't seen him in over 2 years. You don't owe me any explanation. He looked at me, eyes shining, not with tears but rage, grief. A storm he'd clearly kept locked away. He made me feel like I was too much and not enough at the same time. Kyle said, every time I cried, he rolled his eyes. Every time I needed comfort, he told me to man up. He wasn't violent. He didn't scream. But he chipped away at me every day until I didn't recognize myself anymore. My chest ached. I took his hand. He gripped it like it was the only thing keeping him upright. You're not there anymore, I whispered. I know, he said. But seeing him, it's like all those ghosts rush back in at once. You're not alone this time. He turned to me. I believe you. And that's when I finally said the thing I'd been holding back. The thing he deserved to hear. I love you. The words were soft, simple, but they cracked something open in both of us. Kyle's breath caught. He looked at me like I just rewired the laws of gravity. Then he said it back, not in a rush, not just because I said it first, but because he meant it. I love you too. And just like that, the ghost didn't matter anymore. It's wild how fast life tries to return to normal after something big happens. After the hospital, after the confession, after the kiss that changed everything. But nothing about us was normal anymore. Kyle and I had said the words now, the big ones. I love you, twice. But after that night, life didn't pause to give us space to figure all out. If anything, it sped up. It started with my mom. Out of nowhere, she texted me, your aunt is visiting next weekend. Bring someone if you want. Will be nice to finally meet this guy you keep avoiding talking about. I stared at my phone for 5 minutes straight. I hadn't told her anything. Not officially. Not directly. Sure, she guessed over the years. Dropped some awkward hints. Left a few rainbow mugs accidentally around the kitchen when I visited. But I'd never said it. Never shown her. Now, without warning, she was inviting me, us, into the open. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt like my lungs had shrunk. That night, I told Kyle while we were lying side by side on my bed, staring at the ceiling like we always did when the weight of the day was too much for eye contact. My mom wants to meet you, I said. He didn't move, didn't flinch. He just whispered, do you want her to? I thought for a moment. Then, I don't know, but I want you to know I'm not hiding you. He turned his head toward me, eyes soft in the dark. I'm not afraid of meeting your mom, he said. I'm afraid of what you'll do after. I blinked. What do you mean? I mean, will we still be whatever this is when she starts asking real questions? I sat up slowly. What do you think this is? He hesitated, then sat up beside me. I think this is real, he said. I think it's love. But I also think we've never actually said what we want from it. That hit me like a punch in the chest. Because he was right. The next day, I brought it up. Over coffee. No distractions. No music. Just us and a table between us that suddenly felt too wide. Do you want us to be serious? I asked. Kyle looked up slowly. I thought we already were. I mean like real titles. Real steps. Introducing you to family. Maybe moving in one day. He smiled a little sad. That sounds serious to me. I've just never done it like this before. I admitted, no games, no walls, no pretending I'm cooler than I am. I know, he said, and I'm not asking you to sprint. I just want to know we're heading in the same direction. I reached across the table and took his hand. We are, I said, and for the first time, I truly believed it. Meeting my mom was weird, but in a surprisingly good way. She was awkward. Yeah, called him Kyle from the massage story, when she introduced him to my aunt, told embarrassing stories from my childhood, served undercooked pasta like she always did. But she liked him. I could see it in the way she smiled at his jokes, asked him real questions, and made sure he had seconds of everything. At one point, she pulled me aside while Kyle helped clear the table. You're different with him, she said. How so? Lighter, she said, like your shoulders are finally down. I didn't respond, but I knew she was right. That night, Kyle and I walked home in silence. He kept glancing at me, like he was waiting for me to say something. Finally, I asked, you okay? He nodded. Yeah, just processing. Good or bad? Good, he said. Really good. But it made me realize something. What? I want you in my future, he said simply. Not just now, not just when it's easy, but really in it. I stopped walking, turned to him, took both his hands in mine. I want that too, I said. All of it, even the messy parts. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since the second we left dinner. And then, in the middle of the sidewalk, under a flickering street lamp, we kissed, not like the first time, not hesitant, not like the second time, not tender, but like two people finally stepping into something they've been dancing around for too long. The next few weeks passed in a blur. We didn't rush anything, didn't suddenly merge lives or start planning anniversaries, but we did start building something. We cooked together, watched documentaries we never finished, started using we when talking about plans. And sometimes we fought. Small things, dumb things, like how I always left the cabinet open, or how he couldn't stand the way I skipped the previews on movie nights. But even the fights felt safe, because we were learning how to love each other. Not just that we did. One night, after a long day, we were curled up in bed, his head on my chest, my hand tracing circles on his back. And he whispered, you know what scares me? What? That this will be the part where the story ends. I froze. He continued, where the romance dies, where we get comfortable and stop choosing each other. I didn't answer right away, because part of me feared that too. But then I said, that won't happen. He looked up at me. Not because we're perfect, I added, but because we'll keep choosing each other, even when it's hard, even when we're tired, even when the butterflies fade. He smiled. Sleepy, warm, safe. You're the best story I've ever been in, he whispered. And that was the moment I knew this wasn't the end of our story. It was just the beginning of the part where it mattered most. If you asked me 6 months ago where I thought my life was headed, I wouldn't have had an answer. Back then, it was routine. Wake up, go to work, avoid anything that felt too vulnerable. Spend my evenings watching shows alone with food I didn't even taste. Keep people at arm's length, especially the ones who made my heart beat faster. And now I woke up next to someone who knew how I liked my coffee, who didn't mind that I talked to myself when I was anxious, who kissed me without needing a reason, someone who saw me when I forgot how to see myself. But just as we started to settle into something real, life, as usual, threw one final question at us, one neither of us could dodge. It happened on a Sunday morning. We'd spent the night at Kyle's place, my first time sleeping over since the night I brought him home from the hospital. It was quiet, warm, familiar. The sheets smelled like his cologne. His hand had found mine in his sleep. I hadn't moved it. When we finally made it to the kitchen, hair messy, still in our T-shirts, his sister, Sandra, was there, dropping off something for him. She took one look at us and smiled like she knew a secret. Then, as casually as ordering a coffee, she asked, "So, where you two see this going?" Neither of us answered right away. Kyle stared into his coffee. I blinked like she just asked us to name our future children. She laughed. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. I was just wondering. You guys have something really good. It's obvious. Still, we said nothing. She shrugged and changed the subject. But the damage was done. The question hung in the air long after she left. Later that evening, I brought it up. We were on the couch again, our favorite place. Feet tangled. TV low. The world far away. She asked a fair question. I said softly. Kyle nodded barely. I continued. So, where do you see this going? He didn't look at me at first. He just played with the edge of the blanket, across his lap. I used to be afraid of that question, he said finally. But now I think I know. He turned toward me, and his voice got quieter, more serious. I see it going toward something real, something long-term. Not perfect, not always easy, but stable, honest. The kind of thing where we learn how to hold each other, even when we don't have the words. I swallowed hard. That's what I want, too, I whispered. There was a pause. Then he added, I've never lived with someone before. Not properly. But sometimes when you're here, I forget this place was ever just mine. My heart kicked in my chest. You're thinking about us living together? I'm not saying tomorrow, he said quickly. I just think about it. What it would be like, making dinner together, sharing a closet, arguing over what kind of stupid throw pillows to buy. I laughed. You hate my throw pillows. They look like chewed-up cotton candy. They were $40. Refund them with an apology to your future interior designer. We both laughed, harder than we should have. And just like that, the heaviness broke. But the seriousness didn't vanish. If anything, it deepened. I think about it too, I admitted, waking up next to you more often, falling asleep in the same bed without having to say goodbye, building something that feels like ours. Kyle reached for my hand. Then let's not rush, he said, but let's not run either. That line sat with me. Let's not run. Because for so long, that's all I ever did. A few weeks later, we took our first step. Small, quiet, ours. I cleared out 2 drawers in my dresser. He gave me space in his closet. We made a shared grocery list. He brought his toothbrush over and didn't take it back. It didn't feel like some big romantic movie moment. It felt better than that. It felt normal. The kind of normal I didn't know I was allowed to want. But love isn't just built on big gestures and drawer space. It's built in the moments you show up when it's inconvenient, when someone is sick, when a bad day pushes them into silence, when they say, I'm fine, and you know they're not. And Kyle? He showed up, over and over again. There was a night I came home late, exhausted, burned out, doubting everything. I didn't text, didn't call. I just collapsed onto my bed, shoes still on. He showed up with tea, didn't say much, just sat beside me, letting his presence say what words couldn't. That night, I cried for the first time in front of him since the hospital, not because of a heartbreak, not because of a fight, but because I finally felt safe enough to. He held me, whispering softly, You don't always have to be the strong one. And I believe him. People started noticing. At work, among friends. Even a barista at our favorite coffee shop raised an eyebrow and asked, So, is this your person now? I used to panic when people asked that. Now, I smiled and said, Yeah, he is. Because by then we started planning small things. A weekend trip, a new couch, whether we'd adopt a plant and try not to kill it. We fought sometimes, real fights. But every single time we came back, talked it out, apologized, listened better the next time. We weren't perfect, but we were trying, and that made all the difference. One night, 6 months after that first unexpected kiss, we were sitting on our tiny balcony, watching city lights blink in the distance. Kyle turned to me and asked, Do you remember how all of this started? I smiled. You mean the massage? He laughed. Yeah, that. Wild, I said. A simple touch turned into everything. He leaned in, rested his head on my shoulder, and in that quiet, perfect moment he said, I'm glad I touched you. I'm even more glad you let me stay. I turned and kissed him, slow, soft, certain. I'm glad too. So where do I see this going? Not just the shared furniture and coordinated laundry days, not just the keys on the same hook and groceries on the same receipt, but to a life. One where we wake up and choose each other again. One where love isn't the grand, dramatic kind, but the steady, daily, earned kind. The kind that starts with a simple moment and changes everything.